I'm on the second to last chapter, technically, of this book. I'm not counting the epilogue as a chapter, but it probably should, but that's not going to be included as like my goal of like the end. The end is like the end of chapter 27. The epilogue is like well after, when everything's settled down and whatever. Just like a little like, hey, how's it going? Way later, it's fine, kind of a chapter. So for this one, I went into it very anxious because I started to realize that I'm like, I feel like I have a character that I could 100% cut from this story. That's a problem because it's like the second to last thing, and now I'm debating on if I need to completely remove this character entirely and add a different plot to fix where that character would have been. And I decided to follow my thing of I'm just gonna proceed as planned and then make a note of it in my notes of to edit, basically, which used to be the outline like thing. It's just another sheet, page, whatever, in my Google Sheets of an outline. And I was like, you know what? We're just gonna make a note and just keep going. And if I need to change it, I can change it. Because I realized at this point, this character is like maybe 2 paragraphs of like existence, really. Like it is so minuscule compared to all of the others. And I'm like, I either need to make them a bigger part of the story, which overall I feel like the story is like a skeleton and I need to start adding in things, which is how I always feel when I write. And I'm like, either I need to add more to make this character realistic and like actually have a point to exist, or I need to remove them and figure out a way to fill where they would have been. Now the thing is, I decided I'm just gonna make a note and we're just gonna continue. And honestly, I'm kind of glad because like as I started to write, I realized how I could introduce that character to really actually have a purpose a bit. Ish. Still definitely like a minor character, but not as bad. And I've kind of just like, I have to ignore the like part of the brain that's like, oh well that's not good and you're not doing good with this and this and this and this. And I'm like, it's fine. It doesn't have to be a good story. It just has to be a story. I'm not aiming to be like a New York Times #1 bestseller. I'm just telling this story. It's okay that like some things aren't as fleshed out as others. And again, I think editing is going to take a lot. But for now, I made that note and then I decided to jump in, and I hadn't even decided what character was going to talk or where it was going to go. And I opted to have my one character who started the story probably gonna end the story. I also realized that I probably need to deal with a particular character, and I don't know how, but we're debating on it. Like, I don't know yet. I also have been, like, I didn't know where I was going with the ending, especially at this point. I hadn't decided how it was going to end. I just kind of had, like, a really vague idea, and now I'm at the vague idea, and now I have to make it unvague. And that's where I'm at. Because sometimes you'll end the book in the last chapter where it's like, oh my god, big action scene, woo! And then sometimes it's more of like that wrapping up little cocoon of a closure that you need at the end of the story. That's not what this end chapter is. Again, that's what I'm saving the epilogue for. That is the cocooning of everything's coming together all nice and pretty, and we get to see how everything kind of ended. And how, you know, they're going forward with the rest of their existence. And so chapter 27 is where a lot needs to happen. And it's also where I realized that like if I wanted to, I could have expanded this into another book. I'm not planning on it. I do want to just end this story, but it's where you get those little inklings of like, I could keep going, I could do this, and you're like, okay, creativity, I know, but also, you know it's only in the moment. It's not sustained. Bring it back. I always planned it to be a 3-book series. We're keeping it that way. And honestly, at some points, as I've talked about, I didn't know if I was going to get to this point, if I would have enough space, or if it would be too much, because it's changed a lot of like, oh my god, I feel like that's so many chapters and I'm just like blowing through the plot. I don't know if it's gonna get there. And then on the opposite side of it, it's like, oh my god, like I don't know if I can finish everything that I want to. And again, I don't have to keep it at 27 chapters. I'm probably not going to in the revision stages just because I have so much I need to add in. But having that as like my baseline requirement for draft 1 has actually been really helpful. And I really think I'm actually going to be able to finish it in the next chapter. Because like I just have the last little bits to finish up, and then it's like the final thing they have to do. And that's it. And then I can move into the epilogue of how things end up panning out. You know, figuring out the little details that you don't necessarily need to. And so I don't know if I keep going back. Am I gonna call it an epilogue? Am I just gonna call it chapter 28? I don't know. But as of currently, the end is going to happen in 27. And I think I'm gonna be able to write that today because I don't have to go shovel and I only have a little bit of time and then it will be done. So yeah, we're getting really close to the end now. And this chapter, it was only, well, I shouldn't say only, it was close to 2,000 words. It was like 1960 something words, which isn't bad. And again, I'm going to have my editing phase where I go in and I fluff it up quite a bit because I tend to just mostly write dialogue and like brief things like she nodded, she said this, they did this, blah, blah, blah. And then I have to go in and add like what's going on in the background a lot. Let alone I need to have more interactions with the characters and there's just certain things that I want to explore a little bit more. Again, the revision stage I think is going to take a lot longer than I anticipated. That's okay, that's what it's for. And again, the more times you get to the end and you hit publish on a book and start over again, I think you learn more skills as you go. So anyways, I'm very excited to be finishing up today and I would love to hear how your writing is going. Do you get to this point where like you're so close to the end, you're like, screw it, I'm just going to finish the story? I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every other day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching and I'll see y'all soon.